I'm so excited to do this episode. I've been so excited to do this episode for so long.
You've waited all season.
Literally all season. Because it's just so fun I love, as someone who, I've been hosting for this project, but usually I'm behind the camera. And so as someone who's always been behind the camera, it's been really fun to kind of see my creative side come out in front of the camera. And we'll talk more about that process in a bit, but it's fun to give you guys that opportunity too. I'm so excited about that.
Because we have such sparkling personalities.
Well, you definitely do.
Yeah, you have literally sparkling.
This is true.
That's like literally who you are. I also love that you jingle wherever you go.
Yes.
I always know that you're coming because you jingle.
Yeah.
Like
Belled like a cat.
Yeah. Oh. So, okay. Before we get too much further, I want to just go around briefly in case someone's tuning in for the first time to this episode. Just say your name and what your role's been on this project. You can start with you, Lizzie.
Woo! Okay. I'm Lindsey. I'm the producer for Creative by Design.
I'm Isaac. I'm the technical director, fix-it guy, and editor.
And I'm Geoffrey, and I'm social media manager.
Amen.
Yeah, did we summarize our roles? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. This was a podcast and a project that I was kind of like came to fruition in my head a year ago. And originally it was something that I was just going to do. I don't think people listening know this. Originally it was just something that I was going to do by myself. I was just going to do it alone. I was going to host it alone. And it wasn't going to be very big production. It was just going to be like, bring in whoever I can, just have conversations, because it was conversations I wanted to have. And then you guys at some point started coming to me and were like, because we'd done a lot of other stuff together. And you guys were like, we could make this a lot bigger and better if we all did it together. You should let us help you. I can't remember who the first person was to do that. I want to say it was Geoffrey. I do want to say
That would make sense.
Yeah. Geoffrey, like, I remember you coming to me and you were like, you should let us like help you with this because we could make it bigger and better. And clearly there were more people than just myself that were super passionate about the subject matter. And so I'm glad I did. It was really hard for me, like, as talking about my experience personally, it's hard for me to let go of an idea, a creative idea, when I have it.
Yeah, you were real stubborn about it.
Yeah, I know.
We talked about it for a while, and you were like, but it's mine. And we were like, well, okay. Yeah, but you really want to produce a podcast by yourself, homie?
And part of it was that, like, selfish kind of, like, it's mine, it's my creative idea, don't want to let it go. But also it was, like, it matters so much to me, and I wanted to check in with God and be like, is this the direction that I am feeling like you want us to go? Or, whatever. We did end up going this direction, and I'm so glad because I love working with you three. But my question for you is, when I kind of pitched this idea, what is it about this podcast that spoke to you and made you want to be a part of it and make it a bigger thing?
Well, being the person that was the first to break the ice on this situation, for me, I love podcasts just personally. Like, I'll listen to whether it's motivational, whether it's like different sports things that's going on. It was an interesting side of entertainment that came about, and it was big for me starting in like COVID year. And so when the opportunity came up to do a podcast, and I was like, dude, like, obviously, like, I would want to take it. In fact, I wanted to do one with my roommate Curtis like a while back, but that didn't work out. And then I wanted to start one.
Really good, though.
Yeah, whatever.
You still have to do that someday.
So funny.
I would listen. I would listen.
I appreciate it. And then I want to do one with a couple of my other friends, but that also didn't work out. So this was like a third attempt of getting access to something like that. And so again, when the opportunity was presented, I was like, dude, like, yeah, I'm going to take this opportunity. So I came to you and was like, dude, we can make this better than what you think it could be.
Right.
And like Lizzie said, it took you a little bit to get there, but I'm so glad you did, because I mean, just look at the way things turned out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It's like, as much as we've done as students together, this is a medium and a format that we haven't worked with until now, which I think is really cool. But yeah, what about you guys? What kind of spoke to you?
I mean, I had gotten... I wasn't in my audio nerd phase, but there's no better way to put it of like doing all the radio stuff and then doing like the NPR contest, and then like it just like unintentionally became my brand of like, yeah, I do just be like talking on the mic and like making all of this like short form content. So I was like, honestly, this would be a nice opportunity to like fully see something through, because the other stuff, like being a DJ was great, but it's not as scripted or like planned out as like podcasting is by any means. And then the one podcast episode I did for the NPR competition was like a one-off thing and just like kind of randomly happened. So I was like, it'd be good to like actually like plan this and like have a go at like fully completing a project and not just doing like a random fragment of something.
Which has been a really interesting experience, I think, for all of us. Like that, looking at that arc from start to finish of something that's a different format than just a short film or something like that, because it's structured so differently, and it takes like different parts of your brain and different parts of your energy, and it's like really interesting.
It's almost like prepping for a feature. I feel like that's what it's been like, instead of like the short fragmented like we have 1 week, you know. It's been like, no, we have a whole school year, and so you have like a lot more time to get things done, and it's a whole different way of working than what you're used to, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
More planning. From my perspective, it's been a lot more like, hey, like think like 10 weeks down the road. Like don't just think about, okay, what's this next project I'm doing? Like what's this next thing I'm doing? It's like, okay, so we're doing this week, but what are we doing 3 weeks from now? Yeah. And what do I need to start prepping for that?
You got to kind of split your brain a little bit, I think. What is like in the beginning, what was it for you that drew you to this?
What originally drew me to this project, I would say, I mean, number one, I knew I wanted to do something collaborative for my senior year. So I wanted to work with the three of you. And so then when this idea came across, I was like, well, that's really cool. We'd be able to work on it, and we'd be working on it for a long time and like developing, I think, better of like
sometimes
seeing something from start to finish.
Sometimes when you have so many classes and so many, like such a variety of projects, it feels really rushed, the stuff that you're trying to create. Like, I think especially as a student, because your time is being pulled in like 17 different directions, because you have 4 classes and you have a job and you have, if you're in a relationship. I'm glad you brought that up. It is so rewarding to work on something that's stretched out so much longer, and you can do a lot more planning, and you get a lot more time to sit with it, even just in your own brain. And also, I think when you have a longer period of time that you're working on something, you have a longer period of time to experience yourself growing and improving through the process, which we always experience when we do short films, but in a much more condensed way.
Short burst.
Like in a quarter, and then next quarter you almost don't even process what you learned as much necessarily, because you're already moved on to whatever you're doing. So I think that was a really good, that was a great thing to bring up. I've said a lot on this podcast, and we've said everywhere at this point on social medias and whatever, that the message of this podcast and the goal of this podcast is like, it's so important. It's so important to me, and I know to you guys too, because you signed on to it. So specifically, like your personal beliefs in the connection between faith and creativity, what was it about the message or the goal of the podcast that made you want to work on it?
Being a faith-based creative is a journey that I'm on personally. It's something that I have to navigate. Okay, how do I keep my love for Christ, keep him first, and create things in order to give him glory, but also not run out of steam? One thing for me that I've found interesting, especially with the social media side of things, is keeping like content consistently. Right? And how do you make things more attractive to an audience while still making sure that it's still attractive to God? And that's difficult.
Because you can get caught up in that
and
self-centered type of spiral real quick. Yeah.
As well as like numbers. I'm big on numbers. Like my brain will, okay, this posted this much, or this song did this much, or when I made this video, this many people said something. So my brain likes to calculate all these different things. And so having a podcast that talks about those kind of struggles, or that talks about certain things that have to do with what is it like to give your life to Christ and still be creative and see how other people do that, that's empowering to me because I'm on that journey myself.
Yeah, that struggle of trying to keep your priorities straight.
Yeah.
Well, it's like balancing trying to keep your priorities straight and trying to make sure they're aligned with what you think God wants from you.
Yeah.
But also you want to feel personally fulfilled.
Yeah.
But also you want to serve God.
Yeah.
But also. And there's so many things.
Mhm.
Like it's such a juggling act. And you're right. Yeah. That's really, I appreciate that you mentioned it's the personal journey you're on.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can all relate to that. I think sometimes even like in my pursuit to do the best I possibly can in my job, I've kind of swung the pendulum towards I want to make sure to not focus on myself too much because I don't want to get in my own head. You know, I want to make sure I'm doing this for God. But in that, I kind of have maybe swung too far of like not even thinking about how I'm being creatively fulfilled or how who I am as a person contributes to what this is, what we're creating. Because that's important too. God created us. But that whole balancing act of all those things is so tough.
Dude, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like when we started this and when it was first pitched to me, I didn't even fully understand what the vision for it was going to be because we talk about this all the time. I am not the deep philosophical one of the group. I am like the polar opposite. And that's like, I'm not sitting here thinking about the meaning of life. It's just not me. And so when it was first like brought up, I was like, I don't even really know what we're talking about here. But I trust my team and I trust the three of you, and everyone else was like, oh yeah, like this is something. And I was like, you know what? This is something. And I and that sounds like I was just going with the flow, but there also was like a spiritual aspect to it too, of like we had talked about, I think like maybe our sophomore year, about wanting to make Christian content. And I remember like Linnell had like she saw that we wrote that on the board and she was like,
Yeah,
that makes my heart so happy that like students here actually like care about this. And it's like, yeah, we do. Like we don't find a way to weave it into most of our projects and most of our assignments, but it's like all of us share that part of our identity. Like it's very important to who we are. So I just kind of took it as like, you know what, God, this is going to be a fun little adventure. And you know, like that's why God made you host and not me. like literally that is why, because this is not, it wasn't my baby. It wasn't my like brain thought and idea, but I love that I've been able to contribute to it.
You've contributed to it so intentionally and so wonderfully, and we couldn't do it without you. I love your honesty. I think that's one of the best things you bring to this whole like vibe between the four
Every
of us.
time I tell you guys to stop doing something.
Yeah. But I love your honesty, and I just love the way you put that. So simple, but you're right. And I think the interesting thing too is when we said that, I think it was sophomore year, we said that we want to make Christian content, and Linnell, I remember that she was like, oh, this is so cool. That makes me so happy.
And it took us 2 years, but we did it.
But the other interesting thing I think is like, which this denotes exactly why we're making this, is I literally remember there being some people who, when they heard that we said that or I said that, they automatically assumed I meant like the standard Christian movies or like the only like Jesus and God and Bible and church and all of that.
Like all 12 of the disciples on screen.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that's not what we're saying here. And that exact experience is the kind of experience that led to this podcast being made, which is so cool and so interesting.
Even we're finding out new things about this podcast.
Right.
No,
I didn't even know that.
honestly. But it like where we started and where we are now, totally different things have happened.
Yes.
And like the meaning of it all has entirely changed.
Facts.
In what way would you say?
I mean, I have a way better understanding of like why God wanted this project to happen. I feel like just even us like praying before we get started on set. Why have we never done that? We've been on set with each other for like 4 years. You know what I mean? Like, and it's those little habitual things of like, we've all grown so much as people. We're seniors now. It's, you know, older and wiser. But the way we have grown so much to make something of good quality for God is really important. And we all, I feel, have a better understanding of our own identities and what we bring to the table. If we tried to do something like this,
when we were
3 years
freshmen.
ago, yeah, like we wouldn't have had a good understanding of where we even fit.
Yeah, not at all.
And like that's not to say God couldn't have used us, because Lord knows he can, but like I don't think we would have been ready. And I feel like we were amply prepared for this.
God's timing is everything.
For sure.
And it's been such an amazing experience. And that is the cool thing, is that I feel like we're still learning every single day.
Every day.
As we're doing this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Isaac, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, every time a light burns out, we're learning something new.
Yeah, that's true. There's always like behind the scenes stuff that happens that people don't see, that like things go wrong or things don't work.
We hope they don't see that.
And
we buy the wrong plane tickets for guests.
Oh.
Like,
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
We're airing out dirty laundry now?
hey, we can air it out because we're past it and God took care of it.
Amen.
That's the thing. I think
Amen.
And
that
he's taking care of everything.
that is one of the biggest things that God has taught me on this podcast, is truly, like, I keep saying faith-based creativity. And God's like, you know the faith part? Yeah. Like you're gonna learn that.
Let's work on that,
That's
yeah.
what you're gonna
real
learn.
creative. We know that one. But are you guys full of faith yet?
Yeah. And so like the things like that keep happening. And they always do on any production that anyone makes. But that's the part where I gotta be just like, okay, God, like I all right, like I'm just gonna assume that you're gonna take care of this because I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And this is for you anyway. So like, but as a control freak like I am, turning that over is so tough. And this project has been such a good exercise in learning how to do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like all of us could say that in some way.
Oh, yeah. In every aspect of the production, there's been like God moments of like, man, God, I don't even know who we should talk to on this podcast. Like a full season is a lot of guests, and we don't want everyone to just be, from the university. We want to branch out. We want everyone to have, good content to talk about, like
Diverse perspectives.
Yeah. And a lot of our meetings, we would pray, like, give us the right guest. And look, it happened.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is a lot to do, especially when you're also full-time students and doing all your other classes too. And like we said, in relationships and living and having bills and and it's just been such a test. It's been such a faith test. And I think what has come out of it has been a testament to now when we walk away from this podcast, 20 years down the line, it's sitting on YouTube and someone watches this episode right here and they're listening and they hear us talking about how we had all these things happen, and they come to us and they're like, I want to hear some of those stories. And then we tell them the story of the plane ticket that was booked wrong or of the light burning out or whatever, and we get to witness and say our experience making this podcast about having faith in creativity, among other things, is literally like one of the best examples of this concept, because this is all the times that things happened and this is all the times that we had to have faith, and we get to share those stories with people. And I think that that's really cool. Yeah, I think it's awesome. Speaking of the fact that it's about faith-based creativity, I want to hear from you guys. What are some ways, like in your personal journeys, that faith impacts your creativity? Or how do those relationships play with each other in your life? The relationship between you and God and the relationship between you and the part of you that's an artist.
Great question.
Thank you, Isaac.
Yeah,
I do
of
my
course.
best.
She said it's just my job.
Yeah. Personally, I would say that a lot of it falls into less about the actual creating, because the creating kind of comes naturally, and more about like the trusting God in everything else that has to happen outside of the creativity.
Like logistic type
the
things?
Logistics, the like, oh yeah, you're a student, you're married, you're whatever, you're doing all this other stuff. Like, that'll be fine. Like, don't worry about the finances. Like, I was really worried like a couple months ago about like paying for school or whatever. And it got cleared up. Like, God provided.
Yeah.
And, I'm doing fine now. But for a while there, I was like, I don't know how I can do this podcast right now. I have like all of this. I need to be working like 20 hours, the maximum that they'll allow me.
Yeah.
Full-time, part-time.
Yeah, I feel that.
And what I needed was to just trust God.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then all it takes is like a moment, a prayer, that just recognition of my worrying doesn't make it better.
So to be clear, you're saying that the way that your relationship with God and your relationship with art interact with each other is that your relationship with God, in a sense, makes your relationship with art possible. Because that faith takes care of all those other worrying things so that you can be creative.
The more I trust God, the more I can create.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, me too.
I love that.
You're getting quoted.
Oh, okay.
I know that right now.
Jeffrey, your turn to be quoted.
Okay, bet. Where do I start? I mentioned it a little bit earlier about the balancing act of having to understand where I am and where God is, and how I have to put him first. One of the biggest components of that for me is patience. I love creativity so much that if I get the opportunity to do it, I'm going to jump on it and I'm going to give it my all. But there are some situations where time needs to do its thing, and I need to learn some things before I can endeavor in that creative thing.
Yeah.
Right? I'm actually going through this right now as we speak, which is why I'm talking about it. I'm, again, like I've talked to y'all about this before. I'm in the process of making a song with a couple of artists that we've had actually previously on the show. Caleb and Gabe.
Friends of the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so, I went in one night and I was like, I don't know where to go with this. And then, things started flowing. I was like, cool. Like I wanted to be in the studio like all the time at that point. Like I'm like restructuring my whole entire week. Like I was going to be in there today and then yesterday and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then I came in like Monday. We worked on it like Saturday night, whatever. I came in Monday. He was like working on it. Caleb's like working on a different song. I was like, oh, okay. And so like for me, I don't know why I'm feeling like hurt or like something like we should be working on the other song, right? So now I'm getting like a little bit more controlling. I'm not being patient with it, all these different things. And so God was like, yo, chill. Like it's going to happen when it happens.
Yeah.
But just relax, like let it. There's a lot of things you need to fix, but let the process be what the process is going to be. And so that's one thing I'm having to learn is like when to take the opportunity when God's saying go, and when to know that God is saying, hey, chill, and understanding where that red light and green light is actually being applied. That's a big thing for me.
It's hard because, it's really hard because when you are doing something creative and it starts feeling good, you get really excited because not to be overly depressing, but there's not many things in life that feel good. Like there's a lot of times in life that it just kind of is sucky and it's hard. And so when you have that creatively fulfilling experience and you get really excited about it, you can also tend to like start being a little controlling, like you're saying, because you're like, I gotta hang on to it.
Facts.
Yeah.
Dude, I want this song so bad, but God's going to make it work out when it needs to work out. So
God's time.
Stay tuned for that, though. I'll let y'all keep y'all updated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I'm excited.
What about you?
I feel like God has always been so creative to me, and I've always connected to God through creativity. Like growing up, when I like read my Bible, I would write a script right next to it of like the same Bible story, but like I could see it in TV in my head, if that made sense. And so I would like rewrite it in like script form. And then like it was always coming up in art. Like I like one day, like without even trying, made up something called prayer petals, where I was like drawing a flower, but then every petal on the flower had a prayer request on it. And I was like, these are prayer petals. That's so cool. So like God has always come through me through creativity in so many aspects of my life, except for filmmaking. Like I have never felt God in my filmmaking. And I think part of it is because like being on the producer side of things, I've always taken like the more business structured mindset to filmmaking, and being raised by business corporate America parents, like that's not a place where religion shines, and that's not a place where you talk about it. And so I've kind of like closed that door to being a place where I can let God into it. And so like a production like this is the first time that I've been able to like really merge the two and like let God come on over, because I don't know why I seem to think God doesn't want to help me with my deadlines and scheduling. Like there are no limitations. He's absolutely fine with it. Someone just needed to tell me. So I figured it out, and yeah.
I love that for you.
Thanks.
I hope you know that.
Me too.
Random question. What is your guys' like for your roles on this podcast? What's been your favorite part of your job?
I'll say for me, I like when I'm not in front of the camera. And when I'm in the control room and I'm looking at the cameras and I'm looking at what's going on and everything is just like flowing naturally.
Working?
Yeah, when everything
There are no
works.
problems.
And it's just like, I'm just doing it. Everything's going well. Like
That's fair.
Krista's talking. The guest is responding. We're
Yay.
having a conversation. Everyone's invited. It's wonderful.
Solid.
Nothing's burning. Nothing's okay.
So
We didn't
just-
have any fires, but
Yeah, we didn't. So just seeing everything come together.
yeah, just like, but specifically being in the control room
Yeah.
and being able to like just cut and do that live editing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I have always known that you're very good at that kind of thing. Very talented. That's why you have the job you have.
Dude, he's good.
But
yo.
I didn't realize that you enjoyed it so much as well. So I'm
Yeah,
really
me
glad to
either.
hear that. What about you
I mean, I
guys?
enjoy it when it's working well. I do get a little
Okay,
stressed
fair.
leading up
That's
to it.
fair.
True.
Yeah. But I think we can all relate to that though.
Yeah, for sure.
And when I'm editing, it's like that like flow state of like, this goes here, this goes there. I'm watching for things.
Yeah.
And it's like putting that puzzle together. And that's like where I feel like my creativity, I prefer the like putting pieces together and like almost like a collage sort of thing, more so than like, here's the thing that I just came up with out of my brain. It's like, here's
So
how
you're
I found
given
order.
stuff to work with and you're gonna like,
At least when it comes
put
to
it into-
filmmaking, yeah.
yeah.
I do like being behind the camera too, though.
Nice. What about you guys? Favorite part of the job?
Who's going?
you.
Okay. I'm gonna hot take.
Oh.
I love the problems. That's my
Oh my
favorite
God.
part.
See,
My
this is why
favorite part is being
you
the
will
problem
always
solver.
and forever be my producer on whatever I do, because
Dude,
I like
yeah.
my whole body just like when you said that. Like I hate the problems.
The fundraising part of this was a big portion to making it all happen, and I knew that it was a big portion of my responsibility. And finding an audience who would buy into, for the listeners, by the way, we did Christmas family photo shoots here in the studio. And the problem is advertising, right? Like, who wants to take photos with us? And so getting really creative with that. And also, I love talking to people. And I feel like if I ever have the opportunity to just yip yapper, I can sell somebody on an idea. So
True.
So finding different places to find different families and build those connections and relationships and be like, you can trust me, they're gonna look great. And then they came in and we had like cute little tiny babies.
Oh, we had
And-
so many cute
Oh my
children.
gosh, right.
Yeah.
Right? The little like 4-year-old and 2-year-old playing with fake snowballs. My
Yeah,
favorite thing ever.
Yeah, that was really cute.
Yeah. So like that was the funnest part to me, honestly, the whole like fundraising era. And yeah, those are some crazy
And
long
figuring
Sundays.
out how the heck we're gonna do this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like let's not pretend I've ever built a budget before. Like guys.
Yeah, knowing you. Yeah. Yeah.
Budget for what? Budget for who?
Facts.
Budget for this podcast. Like it was learning curve. Thanks, Dad, for teaching me Excel spreadsheets.
Mm.
Shout out to Dad.
Shout out to
For
Dad.
real, we
love Dad.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
I think for me, it's content creation.
Mm.
I've talked about this a lot in the past. I've always wanted to be connected in some type of influencing in some way, whether
Mhm.
that's creating content on Instagram, TikTok, Vine. Back then in the day, I tried to make a couple back then. going on YouTube, streaming, whatever it is, like getting my hand on a camera or getting my hand behind the camera, something like that, and creating content for other people to consume. That's
Yeah.
always something that I've been interested in and wanted to do. And so getting the social media role and given the right and giving the opportunity to take what I have in my head and then combine that with the thoughts that you've given me, Krista, and how you saw this, and getting to a point to where we've met in the middle and we can
Yeah.
now start to see it come together and the numbers start flying in and you see all the different ideas that are working and what's not working. Like that process to me is the most fun because I am someone that loves to grow. I love to change and become better. And so this allows me to figure out, okay, with this type of audience, they like these type of things and not these type of things. How can I continue to do that, but in a different way? And so each post or each thing is a different trial on that. And so that's what's been the best part for me. It's just creating that content for consumers and seeing what they do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Mine is, I mean, I think mine's fairly predictable. It's kind of like a two-parter, but my favorite part really has been, first of all, figuring out if, like, I know what conversation I want to have with someone, figuring out how I want to attempt to structure that as a host, how I want to attempt, like, obviously I want someone to be comfortable and I want it to feel natural and all of that, but how within all of those parameters, how I want to attempt to structure the conversation and what's important to me to talk about. And then the other part of that is, like, it's been my favorite thing to get to set and the camera turns on, my guest is sitting there and we start having that conversation and it takes on an identity of its own. The conversation does. Yeah. And I'm able to function like within the structure I created, but then sometimes it'll like punch a hand out here or a foot out there and I'm like, oh, didn't see that coming. All right, but you roll with it. And I've learned to just let those things happen and trust God in that scenario. And what's happened is it's created way more beautiful conversations and way more impactful moments than I could have ever just created on my own by sticking exactly to what I thought this should be, right? And so I try to give God my best by preparing as much as I can, but then I also try to keep an open mind when I get to set of how things are going to go and how he's going to use it and shape it for himself. And that's been my favorite part because I literally am watching. It feels like sitting in this chair, I'm making art with God, like me and God are making art together, like in the act of it.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. It's so fun to sit there and like hear what someone's going to say. And then I get to respond, but it gets to be God through me. Like sometimes when I say things, honestly, I just black out. Like there's been moments where I say something and it's like God's, whatever I'm saying wasn't my idea. It's just coming out of me and whatever God wants me to say, you know? But it's like, yeah, it feels like creating art with God, like in the moment, the conversation that's being crafted. That's been my favorite part by far. So fun.
Yeah, how can you beat that?
It's amazing.
That's hard to beat. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's been such an incredible experience. Flipping over. What's a challenge you've experienced in your specific portion or role that you didn't necessarily see coming? I think I can start.
By all means.
For me, a challenge that I didn't see coming was just how hard it was going to be to surrender and have faith.
Fair.
I know that like by nature, I'm a sinful, self-centered human, but I didn't realize how tough it was going to be for me to just give up my need to curate my image or make sure I look perfect on camera or sound perfect on camera for the sake of God being able to do what he wants, that was so challenging. That was so challenging because it opens you up for judgment, and it opens you up to making mistakes because you're not perfect, and it opens you up to all this stuff, and you have to let go of your control, and I don't like that. Control is like the opposite of faith, right?
Yeah.
And so just how challenging it actually has been to have that faith, I didn't expect it, but man, it has forced me to grow so much.
We've seen it.
That's
Like just
really?
as crew members,
Yeah.
like we've seen you grow through that.
You stopped getting up to adjust the lights.
Can we just get a moment of silence
No,
for that?
literally.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Yeah, because I mean, so real.
For anyone
real.
for anyone who doesn't know me personally, that is a big deal because I'm a control freak. If I see something wrong, I'll want to just get up
She's
and
like,
fix
please
it.
let me touch it. Please let me touch it.
Yeah.
No,
And
sit down.
she would yell at me, be like, "No, that's not your job. Sit back down in your little chair. Don't move."
Sometimes the chair is a prison, and it works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a timeout chair half the time.
We made it intentionally hard to get out of.
Oh god.
Move the microphone just a little too close so it's like boxing you in there.
Like pinned in.
Yeah, there you go. It's
But
a
yeah,
veil
what
cell.
about you guys? What has been some challenges that you hadn't seen coming necessarily?
Picture editing, Lord.
Oh.
Oh, just the
You're not loving that one?
no,
No.
like having to go in there and look at just beautiful people that we've taken photos of that have been on this podcast and being like, how am I going to edit you? Has been such an interesting process. Lord, wow. I don't got
So
words for
funny.
that.
Is
That
Faith
was-
coming in clutch on this one?
it's doing something.
Why?
It's doing something because I don't know how it worked out. I've had help from Lindsey on some of them, so that's been great. But like the things I've
Yeah,
had to
I
do
love
on
it.
my own, and it's oof. But we're figuring it out. And
Comment
it's-
down below, Geoffrey. The Instagram looks great.
Yeah. So let's get some support for Geoffrey in
My
the comments.
God. Yeah, but it's turned out to be something that I've needed to do. I wanted to do photos in the past, but I never took the opportunity to do it. And so this like forced me to like
Look at that.
yeah.
Look at Jesus work.
Yeah, learn that skill.
Not
And
snapping because of the mic, but I'm snapping.
I've had to learn that skill, and it's been a good skill to learn, but Jesus knows it was tough. My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Here's the thing. Every challenge that has come my way, I low-key expected because I knew my job would be to fix the problems that happened. So it's like,
Whoa.
Can you just run that one back one more time?
I mean, we have talked a lot just amidst our classes and whatnot that like, the producer's role is to anticipate the next 25 steps and anticipate what happens when you don't follow the path and you don't hit the 25 steps. Like your whole job is just to be on edge and think that everything's going to go wrong and have a plan for if everything goes wrong. So, I mean, yes, unexpected things have happened. I've made mistakes. Everyone on the team has made mistakes, and we've recovered from all of them because, we
We're here
can.
now.
Yeah. But yeah, I can't think of something that popped up that I was like, I wasn't expecting to do that.
Let me reframe.
Okay.
What is a valuable lesson that you've learned in this process? Because I know there's one of those.
You're right.
If there's not,
probably is.
this has been unsuccessful.
that is facts.
Facts.
That is facts. I don't know. I think I have grown a lot more comfortable in my leadership role. The hardest time to be a leader is when you're leading your peers because they're your besties. Like
Yeah.
we sit on each other's couches and hang out and chit chat and like
Did you
watch movies.
Did you anticipate the challenge it would be to set boundaries and working relationships with people you were friends with?
Yeah, because I'm really bad at that.
Okay, so you did.
So I knew that like, oh, I'm gonna have to do that eventually, and like
But
when I
still
get to
probably
that
a good
wall-
lesson
Oh yeah,
to learn.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, God, this is a problem, but we'll figure it out when we get there, and we did.
We did, yeah.
So I mean, worked out.
That's a real good point to bring up too, because I think sometimes like people looking in from the outside are like, oh wow, like look at
Working with your friends is so easy.
But no, like we get into disagreements.
Yeah.
We have moments of tension.
There were
Yeah.
heated meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were.
There were meetings where there was like an hour of just like politely yelling at each other.
Ping-ponging back and forth.
That
Yelling
That is
without
such
yelling.
a way to word it. What?
that specific meeting was crazy. We're not gonna go to the details about what happened during that meeting, but that meeting specifically was wild.
But it's taught us all that, like, above all, we all love each other so much, and it's okay to get upset and frustrated sometimes, and then to trust that God's going to help us work it out, even when we have those moments of
Mhm.
tension.
And I feel like for our group specifically, we all trust that everyone can do their job adequately, right?
True.
It's just sometimes we have a hard time communicating our jobs to each other because we don't do each other's jobs.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't edit.
Yeah, it's
I
not
don't like
Yeah,
that.
facts.
Like,
Yeah.
I told y'all from like freshman year, I said, you know what I hate?
Editing.
Yeah, it's not happening. Sorry. I passed my class and moved forward. So like that can be a hard thing for us to communicate because I don't know all the jargon. I don't care. Like it's just not,
Sometimes
me.
it's hard to understand, like, okay, what do you need?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in a group where you're trying to support each other and provide, answers and solutions, if you can't figure out what the problem is together to begin with, then it's even harder to come up with the solution because
It's almost impossible.
yeah, because it's
Yeah.
like, what's the problem?
You just all bounce back and forth until you, yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to our therapy session, friends, where we discuss. I'm just kidding.
This is the section where we talk
This
about
is
some
the
things.
Yeah. We go through our deepest emotions.
Yeah.
Oh god.
My
Our
goodness.
fears.
It's like marriage counseling, but it's
But
it's group project counseling.
No,
There you go.
And here's the
There we
thing,
go.
more people should be doing it.
No,
I feel
for
like
real.
no one teaches you how to communicate with your friends, how to set boundaries with your friends.
Or
how to be
talks
firm.
about
Yeah,
that struggle.
right.
Yeah.
It is so real.
Yep.
Like,
at least in a business sense, like
Yeah.
mhm.
working with people that you've had relationship with prior, and then being like, okay, now we're in a situation where what you do affects me more than you think it does,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
And so I understand that a lot, right? Because you'll have group projects where it might be with people you don't know, but when it's with somebody you do know and you care about, and it's like, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but at the same
But,
time,
yeah.
like, you gonna hurt mine if my grade drop.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, so having that balance, I think you're doing a really good job with doing that. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've been like conquering that because you were saying you knew going into it that it was going to be a struggle for you or something you'd have to work on. And I think that goes for all of us, but I think you're conquering it splendidly. Just want to
Thanks.
say.
I'm doing my best. It makes me super uncomfortable. Right.
Honesty though
Yeah.
matters.
Sure.
Learning
Isaac?
to be honest too.
Yeah, what about you,
Oh.
Isaac? Challenges?
Challenges.
Challenges you faced you didn't expect?
Um,
Your eyes got so big. You look like you've been through a lot. Are you okay?
The quarter
I think
man.
I am. I don't know, man. I've just been like balancing.
So much.
Yeah, juggling.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, I got married like almost 7 months ago now.
Okay.
He did. He's the only one of us that's married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
We
the-
were all in the wedding.
We
We were-
That's
photo.
true.
We were.
He's not going to do that. He's not gonna-
Insert a photo of his own wedding. Okay, sorry.
Imagine.
I just want you to leave it in me just blank staring.
Oh no, I have a great photo of Lindsey we could put in. Oh, there we go. There we go. I have
No,
all
I know
the photos
exactly
of
what
the wedding.
My goodness.
Gosh.
I'm the editor, so I get to do everything that I want.
You do have final power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Geoffrey too, because he also.
I do have some power. Yeah.
But
He's
anyway.
not going to say no to that though. But yeah,
But yeah,
what
no. Like
challenges?
as far as what was challenging, definitely work-life balance. Can be hard sometimes because it's like some weeks or whatever I'd be like, I don't have a whole lot to do, and then I'm like feeling like I should be working,
Yeah.
but I'm like, but if you don't take the time off now, what about the next 3 weeks where you're going to be up to your elbows in footage to go through, lights to fix, photos to edit,
Yep.
whatever. Yeah, no, the photo editing does take a lot more time than you think it does. You're like, oh, I'll sit down for like an hour. It's only 300 photos.
You lose track of time.
300 photos later, you go, oh, I should go to bed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a difficulty finding specific challenges other than just like, I mean, we keep on hitting this thing of, man, trusting God is kind of hard. Man, I wonder if anybody else has ever experienced that. Oh no. Yeah, lo and behold, trusting is hard in many ways. It's hard to trust other people. It's hard to trust God. It's hard to trust yourself sometimes.
Whoa.
Sorry, let me slow that down for you.
Preaching.
Whoa there.
It's real.
Sometimes it is hard
so real.
to trust yourself.
Yep.
Because maybe you haven't done things the right way before. Maybe you, have a pattern of behavior, or you have other things going on right now. And you're like, I don't trust myself to do a good job. I don't trust myself to get this done on time.
Yeah.
And if you don't face up to that, or you don't like ask for help, it just gets worse.
Yep.
And there's been many times where that's where I'm at, where I'm like, I don't think I'm going to get everything done, but I don't do anything about it. I don't turn to God. I don't turn to anything. I just suffer.
Keep trying to get through it.
Power through, push through.
And it doesn't end up going well. It makes things worse later on.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like you think you have strong faith, and then it's put to the test, and you're like, maybe this is a problem. Yeah.
Un poquito.
But yeah, I feel that challenge, and the balance thing is a good thing to bring up too. I think that's always something that's difficult. Thank you guys so much just for being here and for signing on to this and giving it your all. And we did it. We did a season.
Yeah.
Wow.
We did a season full of episodes. We created a thing.
Like and comment for season 2.
Us and God. Oh.
Perfect
That
ending.
might be a joke. Might not be. It's up to God, honestly.
That is facts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait to see where we all go after we graduate. Once again, thank you guys so much
It's
for
been fun.
being here. Yeah, and doing this. So proud of what we made.
Me too.
And I'm so
Our
excited.
parents are going to love this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And it's fun. I think it's fun for people to see us all like talk together too, because we all work together all the time. But for people that know us and for people that don't, we've all been working together on this. But no one's really seen that. So I'm glad that we got to do this episode and all talk together and recap a little bit. And it's been fun. It's been a great ride. Grateful for all of you.
Mucho love to Krista VanHook.
Couldn't have done it without anyone here.
True.
Cast
Facts.
in the other room included.
Facts.
Yep. Thank you to everyone for this season. Everyone that helped on this season. Thank you so much.